It's time to stop playing small and get your life together. It is time to stop dilly-dallying and coasting your way through life, flying under the radar, settling and operating at less than your full potential, and start doing what is required of you to become the best version of yourself. In today's episode, we're going to have a little pep talk, okay? I just have a few things I need to say to you to help you get your life together going into 2026. Not starting January 1st, starting today. Okay? If you thought you were going to go into 2026 with the same methods that did not work in 2025 and think that just because it's 2026, it's a new year, you're going to have this burst of motivation that will suddenly make things different, that is not going to work. If you thought that you were going to operate on maybe 40% of your potential because you were operating on 30% of your potential, that is not going to work. I just have a few things that I want to say to you to make sure you get your life together and you stop playing small, you stop being a shell of yourself, and you do what you need to do to actually commit to being the best version of yourself, whatever that looks like for you. I have 5 things to say to help you get your life together, okay? But before we get into the list, hello and welcome back to another episode of the show. I'm your host, Sensi, and on this podcast, we talk about taking accountability for your life to become the best version of yourself. Now, before I get into it, before I give you the little intervention that I have to give you before the end of the year, I have like three things I need to get out of the way, just some housekeeping items. Okay, the first thing is, I want to apologize for leaving you hanging on Sunday because I told y'all before, if I don't have anything to say, I'm not going to force myself to try to say something, and I didn't have anything to say last week. So I didn't say anything, but I have something to say today. So we have an episode today. Okay. So that's the first thing. I apologize. The second thing is, if you have not already, subscribe to my Substack. Okay. The Substack is like reading my personal diary almost, because some things I won't write online, but the Substack is like the behind the scenes of my own personal journey of becoming the best version of myself. So if the podcast is like catered to you and me helping you and giving you the lessons and the tips and all of these things and us having a conversation, the Substack is like the more intimate behind the scenes reflection pieces from my own journey and my own life. It's kind of like reading my diary in a sense, because if you don't know, I used to have a blog before I started the podcast. So I really like to write, and it's something that I've been wanting to get into more and more. So that's what my Substack is for, and I will leave it in the description. And last but not least, if you don't know, I do have a course called Upgrade Your Standard that is dedicated to helping you shift your identity so you can become the best version of yourself and essentially raise the bar in every area of your life. Raise your standards, right? That's why I call it Upgrade Your Standard. And initially it was a self-paced course, and I recently decided to add a coaching/mentorship component where I will be doing weekly calls with you to give you tailored support. So that has now been added for a limited amount of time, and there's a limited number of people I can coach. So if that is something you're interested in, if you need help shifting your identity to become the best version of yourself because you struggle with inconsistency or self-sabotage or constantly starting over every time you try to become the best version of yourself and work on your goals, then that is something I am now available to help you do. But like I said, it's limited seats. So I will be holding you accountable. I will be giving you these type of interventions in a smaller, intimate setting catered to you. And you will also have access to the full course and the curriculum and everything. And we will be in our own private community, okay? So if you're the type of person who knows that you are committed to becoming the best version of yourself, but you have these roadblocks, these hindrances, and you struggle with self-sabotage and all of these things, and you want me to help you do that, then I will leave the link in the description so you can enroll before spots fill up and before the price goes up in 2026, because this is like the introductory pricing, okay? So these are my 3 housekeeping items. I wanted to apologize, tell you subscribe to my Substack, and tell you that I am now offering coaching as part of the course. So now let us get into the intervention. Let us get into, the little pep talk that I want to have with you before the end of the year. I have 5 things that I need to say to you, 5 things that I think are crucial, right? 5 things I know you need to hear before the end of the year so you don't dilly-dally in 2026 like you dilly-dallied in 2025, okay? These are 5 things that are meant to maybe offer you a different perspective or check you where you're settling in your comfort zone so you can finally get your life together and become the best version of yourself. Okay? The first thing is you need to stop settling. Okay? You need to stop settling and you need to get your life together. You need to stop settling for anything that is less than your full potential. Okay? It does not matter what your full potential or your current level of progress looks like compared to anybody else if you know you are not operating at your full potential. If you know that you're not living the life that you want to live, if you know that you are cowering in your comfort zone right now because you're doing fairly well, even if it's not what you actually want, you need to get your life together. Okay? And the thing is, sometimes your 30% can look like other people's 100%. So even when you try to gain support and you try to vent and talk to some of the people around you about how you want more, they cannot seem to understand. They encourage you to stay where you are. They give you all of these affirmations and tell you that you're doing very well and all of these things that, sometimes they mean well. And sometimes it's like people just cannot seem to fathom what you want when you are already doing so well in their eyes based on what their full potential is. But that has nothing to do with you. That has nothing to do with you. You know what your full potential is. Okay? You know what your full potential is. You know what you want your life to look like. You know how you did this year compared to what you wanted to do and the things you want to do in 2026. And that is the only thing, that is the only standard you need to hold yourself to. Okay? If your 30% looks like somebody else's 100%, you don't need to be getting advice from them as to whether or not you should make certain decisions. Okay? You already know you're operating at 30%. You already know you're operating at less than your full potential, not even half. You need to get it together. Okay? You need to do what you need to do because it's time for you to stop settling. And I know that sometimes that can be scary because it feels safe to be in your comfort zone. It feels safe to be in a space where you are not really challenged, but you're still doing very well enough to fly under the radar as somebody who has their life together because you have your ducks in a row or you're checking certain boxes. But if you know that you are not operating at your full potential and there are other things that you want to do that require more from you, I'm going to need you to do what you need to do to get those things. You see what I mean? You dilly-dallied enough in 2025. You don't need to be doing that in 2026. Let 2026, matter of fact, let December, let this month, let today, when you are hearing this message, let this be day one. Okay? Don't wait for January if you're listening to this in December. Let this be day one. At least decide today that you are not going to continue living below your potential just because it looks good to other people. Okay? You owe it to yourself to do everything that you say you're going to do or everything that you want to do and become who God created you to become. Become the best version of yourself, operating at your full potential. You owe it to yourself to do that, okay? Because if you allow yourself to settle just because it looks good compared to your current environment that you've already outgrown, you will have bitterness and resentment towards yourself because time will go by, years will go by, and then you will realize that you never took a chance on yourself. You settled and you played it safe and you let all of that time go by, and then now you feel like it's too late and you hold all of that resentment towards yourself. And I've actually met somebody who has felt that way, who had nothing but regret in their eyes when they told me how they wish they would have done certain things in their life sooner when they first had the idea. I'm saying this to you because I don't want you to be that person. I don't want that to be you. Okay? You need to stop dilly-dallying at 30% of your potential or anything less than your full potential. It's not that you'll be perfect, but if you can look at what you did today, if you can look at how you live your life, if you can look at how you show up, and you can say, I feel proud of how I showed up, not based on perfection, but at least knowing that you are trying, at least knowing that the things that you want, you are actively working towards it and you are not shying away, you are not turning things down, or you're not settling in your comfort zone. If you know you're at least trying, if you can look at the things that you are doing and the things that you are working on and you can say, I am satisfied with the level of effort or initiative that I'm taking in my life right now, then that's good. But if you cannot say that, you need to get your life together. If you cannot say that, you need to get your life together. I am talking to you, okay? Don't dilly-dally in 2026 like you did in 2025. Stop operating beneath your potential and flying under the radar and staying in your comfort zone, especially because you look very good in the environment that you're at. Maybe you need to change your environment. You see what I mean? And I know exactly what that was like, because when I was doing very well in my career, it did not make sense why I wanted to do other things. It did not make sense why I would start a podcast. It did not make sense that I wanted to start my own business. It did not make sense that I wanted to do all of these other things when I was already doing well. But I know what other people don't know. I see what other people don't see. I know bits and pieces, okay, based on what God has shared. Some things he withholds, but I know based on what God has told me that he has a different path for me. And I know that I am on that path. I know that I am in his will, and that is enough for me. Can you say that about yourself? You see what I mean? It's not for other people to understand. If God gave you a vision, other people are not going to understand the vision, so you really cannot get mad at them for not understanding something that they don't see. It wasn't given to them, it was given to you. They will not see it. They probably won't clap for it. They probably won't cheer you on until your vision becomes your reality. And you really can't fault them for that, because they don't see it. They don't understand why you have this level of discontentment with where you are right now, because that's not where you're meant to be. Do not let another year go by staying in that place. Understand that the discontentment that you feel is not because it's not you being ungrateful. It's not because there's something is wrong. I had to understand that some of the discontentment that I felt at certain points in my life was divine. That was God's way of saying, I'm not going to allow you to be comfortable in a position where you are not meant to stay. I'm not going to allow you to feel peace and fulfillment and joy in a position that is only meant to be a season in your life. That is not where you're supposed to stay. So I'm not going to give you peace there, right? So sometimes the lack of peace and the discontentment that you feel when you're in a certain position in your life is God's way of letting you know that that's not where you're meant to stay. So fight it if you want, but it's not going to go away. And I'm here to tell you that you need to get your life together and stop flying below the radar and operating at less than your potential. Okay? End of story. That is the first part of our pep talk. And the second point is more of a question for your reflection, right? The second point, the question that I have for you is that knowing what you want in life, knowing that you want to be the best version of yourself, I'm assuming, because that's all we talk about. I don't know why you would be here if that's not what you're interested in, right? So knowing that you want to be the best version of yourself, knowing that you see more for your life than what might be your reality right now. The question is, what makes you think that is not going to require more from you than you are doing right now, right? What makes you think that that's not going to require more of you? What makes you think that that's not going to require you to become a different person? Not completely change yourself, but sometimes a different person is being the most authentic version of yourself. And then adding on things like boundaries and shifting your identity and your mindset to protect that authentic version of yourself, the version that God created you to be. What makes you think that the life you want will not require more from you? Because if it were that easy, if the bare minimum were all that was required for the things that you wanted, you would already have it. A lot of people would already have it because it wouldn't require much. The reason why not many people have it, the reason why not many people will ever even try, is because it does have a price of entry. It does have a barrier to entry, and most people are not willing to pay that price. It will require more from you. That is a non-negotiable. So when you're thinking of all of the things that you're afraid of, and you're thinking of all of the ways that it will require you to step outside of your comfort zone, and you're looking at these things like problems, why do you think that's a problem? It's meant to challenge you. It's meant to make you grow. It's meant to bring out a better version of you. It's meant to bring out a more consistent, disciplined version of you. It's meant to build mental resilience in you. It's meant to challenge you. There is a price of entry for the things that you want, right? Let me use myself as an example. When I wanted to start a podcast, I had all of these fears: being seen, putting myself out there, promoting the podcast, saying the wrong thing, or having people mistake me as a therapist or something, like I'm supposed to solve people's problems and that sort of thing. I had all of these fears and limiting beliefs, looking cringe and all of that. But you know what I realized? These things, these fears, these barriers, so to speak, are the reason that a lot of people never start. They are the reason that a lot of people never try, because they're not willing to pay the price. Being cringy is the price of entry for a lot of the things that we want to do. And a lot of people are too prideful and too arrogant to be a beginner, so they will never try. They would rather live with resentment. They would rather settle. They would rather live below their full potential than to be cringy for a moment so they can get better at something and be great. What I realize is you have to get past the cringy in order to be great. You have to give yourself permission to be a beginner in order for you to be an expert, in order for you to get to that next level, whatever it is, in the things that you want to do, right? You have to give yourself permission to start. And in the beginning, it's going to be terrible. I mean, think about the first time you started working and you got a job. Your first day there, even if it was something that you really wanted to do, you probably made mistakes. You probably didn't know what you were doing, right? You probably messed up. You were probably like, walking around in circles, not really sure what to do. Like, there is always a price to pay when you just start. And that price is being cringe. That price is making mistakes. That price is looking like an idiot sometimes. That price is being questioned sometimes. That price is being challenged in ways that will require you to bring out a different level of maturity, to respond to things in a different way. Not the way the old you would, but the way the best version of yourself would. The you that's required at that level would. You see what I mean? Because if somebody's trying you at work, you can't respond to them the same way you would respond to somebody who's like trying you in the comments on social media. You see what I mean? So when you just start anything, it will require a different version of you. There will be challenges. You will be a beginner. It will be hard at first. That's with everything in life. So what makes you think that the things that you want will be any different? What makes you think that when you decide to work on these goals, it's not going to be hard at first? What makes you think you won't make mistakes? I need you to get it together, decide to pay the price, and then keep it moving. You see what I mean? Like, your only option is to pay the price. Technically, the other option is settling and then having resentments and then wasting your life and all of that. But I'm not acknowledging that as an option, because that has never been an option for me. So I'm not going to pose it as an option for you. The only option that you have is to get your life together, to decide to pay the price. Yes, it would suck in the beginning. Yes, it would look like trash in the beginning. Yes, you will make mistakes in the beginning. Yes, it will be hard. In my recent Substack post on like the BTS of me getting more comfortable with being myself authentically online, I shared some of the things that I had to go through. I shared the behind the scenes of how hard it was, the things I had to do. But that was the price I had to pay. That was the price I had to pay to be more comfortable being myself authentically and believing that I am enough. Everything has a price. Everything has a cost. Nothing comes easy. There is no such thing as a free meal. Get that through your head and get it together and pay the price. End of story. You see what I mean? There was somebody that I was talking to somewhere on social media, I think, who was afraid of posting content because they were like, I really want to do this, but I'm afraid that, my first couple of videos will be trash. I said, yes, they will be trash. Post them so you can get better at them with time. Like, it will be trash at first. I keep my first YouTube video up so you can see how trash it was compared to how comfortably I show up on camera now. I purposely kept it up because the first video was me talking about how I'm afraid of making content. Literally. But I decided to pay the price. I decided that I would look cringe for a second, but eventually I would get better with time. I paid the price of entry and the results are paying off. You can see that I'm more comfortable on camera. Yes, your first time, your first post, your first day at the new job, whatever, your first iteration of that thing, it will be trash. Understand that, accept it, and just do it and get it over with so you can get better already. You see what I mean? Understand that the things you want are going to require more from you. It is the price that you have to pay. You cannot get around it. Pay the price and keep it pushing, okay? And then one thing I will add here also is that when we think about the price that we have to pay, the things that we have to do, the ways that we have to show up, the ways that it will require us to be different, whatever that thing is that you want to do, a lot of times, sometimes we can get ourselves to start, but we struggle to stay consistent. and we start self-sabotaging every time we see a little bit of progress. And that has happened to me. And what I have learned is that what's actually happening is that your nervous system is causing you to self-sabotage. It's sending signals throughout your body when you're trying new things because you have not removed the subconscious blocks. You have not shifted your identity. You have not trained your nervous system and your body to believe that the things that you want are safe. And so it is triggering all of these responses to get you to self-sabotage, like procrastinate and doubt yourself and be inconsistent, etc. And that is literally why inside of Upgrade Your Standard, we focus on that. I show you how to get past that, and we focus on getting to the root of why you are self-sabotaging, why you are so afraid, why you're so hung up on deciding whether or not you want to pay the price of entry, whether or not you're going to do the things that you want to do, because it will require a different version of you. It will require you to be more disciplined, to be more consistent. Literally, when you've prioritized shifting your identity and working on your mindset, the actions become very easy to do because you have become the person that can do it versus staying as who you are, who's already comfortable with settling. And you already have to try to convince yourself to do what you need to do, and then thinking that you can just stay as this version of yourself and all of a sudden you'll be consistent in these new things. No, you have to shift your identity first. You have to work on your mindset and your beliefs first. You have to teach your body, teach your nervous system that it is safe to do the things that you want to do, because it will perceive any changes, even though they're good changes, as a threat and cause you to self-sabotage. But like I said, these are all of the things that we unpack inside of Upgrade Your Standard. So that was the second thing. Understand that the things you want, becoming the best version of yourself, is going to require more from you. It's the price of entry. You cannot avoid it. Decide to pay the price and get it over with, because the alternative, settling, is not an option. End of story. Let us move on to number 3. Now, number 3 is essentially me elaborating on what I mentioned in number 2, which is you have to understand that your procrastination, some of your procrastination and your inconsistency is not because you're lazy and undisciplined and all of these things, and you're not worthy of your goals, and all the things you tell yourself when you beat yourself up because you cannot seem to get the results that you want. And this happens to all of us. None of us are immune to this, but only some people understand how to break out of that cycle, while some people don't, because they don't understand what's going on beneath the surface. Let me tell you what's going on beneath the surface, okay? So you are likely trying to become the best version of yourself, working on your goals, planning your vision board and your Pinterest boards and all of these boards and all of these things, because the year is ending and 2026 is starting, and you're trying to, you're taking the initiative to get your life together next year. And the thing is, when you reflect on what your progress has been like in working on your goals, there are certain areas where you just cannot seem to make progress in. You find yourself in a cycle where you keep constantly restarting, right? You constantly have to start over because you start working on your goals, and then you end up in a cycle of inconsistency because you cannot keep it up. 1 week you do really well, the next week you fall off, the week after you scrambling to try to pick it up again. And that's if you even make it past week 1, right? Sometimes some of us, you can't even get past week 1 with your new goals, with your new habits and your new routines and all of these things that you want to do. And then you feel defeated, you beat yourself up, you call yourself lazy, your self-confidence erodes because you're not doing the things that you say you want to do. Even if these are your goals, these are the things that you genuinely want to do. These are the things that you genuinely want. You're working hard towards them. You are trying, but you cannot seem to stay consistent for the life of you for the very things that are the most important to you right now. And every time you manage to stay consistent for a while and you start making progress and you get in a flow state and you start seeing some things working out in your favor, suddenly you start procrastinating. Suddenly you feel tired. You feel exhausted. Now you need to take a nap when you want to work on the things you have to work on, or you avoid it by doing other tasks. Like suddenly you want to meal prep or do laundry, or now you want to go grocery shopping when you said you would work on your goals, or now you want to watch Netflix, or now you want to scroll for hours when you said you would work on your goals. Now you suddenly don't want to go to the gym. Now you don't feel like posting. Now your mind is so cluttered and distracted and you cannot think about what content you have to make, so you don't make the content. Suddenly things just start completely falling apart when you start making progress. The self-sabotage takes over, and then you find yourself back at square one, feeling completely defeated. But these are the things that you say you want. So why is it that for the life of you, you cannot seem to stay consistent long enough to get results? I'll tell you why. It's because you have not shifted your identity to become the person that can handle the things that you are trying to manifest in your life, to handle the goals that you are trying to accomplish, to handle the life that you are trying to create for yourself, right? Let me unpack exactly what that means when I talk about shifting your identity, etc. Your identity has all of these things that fall underneath it, like your mindset, your beliefs, your limiting beliefs, your fears, all of these things that essentially makes up your programming. Like, for example, let's say you want a new job, you want to raise, you want to pivot in your career, right? You believe that you deserve a higher salary, you're not getting it at your job, so you're going to pivot. You want to pivot and you want a new job, or you're applying for a promotion at your current job, right? And you think, oh, this is really great for my career, I'm going to be moving up, this is da-da-da, this is everything I dreamed of, da-da-da. Of course you want that thing, right? It makes logical sense because it's the next step of your career. You want to progress. And you're putting in the work, or you're applying for the new jobs and doing the interviews and all of these things, but then things start falling apart. Let me tell you why. It's because you don't realize that your current identity is for the level that you are on right now. In that current position, in that current role. You have not shifted your identity to sync up with that promotion. So what that looks like is you probably have, say, some fears that you might not be qualified. You might not have enough experience. There might be other people that are more qualified than you and they would get the promotion and not you. Or you're concerned that taking on that promotion would lead to more responsibilities that you might not be able to handle. It might require more education, or it might put you in a position where people find out that you don't really know what you think you know, or you're not really as smart as you think you are, right? So the imposter syndrome. Subconsciously, you have all of these beliefs that are working beneath the surface, thinking, oh no, it will lead to more responsibility. And what if I have to work long hours and I don't get to see my family and I don't have a social life? And what if the interviews are significantly harder? What if they require this skill that I don't have? They have this skill listed in the job description that I don't have yet. So what if I'm not actually qualified for this role? And what if I try to learn this skill and I don't do well at it and everybody finds me out and I get fired and they see that I'm an imposter and I don't actually know all the things that I know? You have all of these limiting beliefs working against you. And then you could have all of these other things like, well, nobody in my family has made this much money before. Maybe I should just settle here, or maybe it's not possible for me. Maybe I do make enough money. You have all of these things working against you, right? What if I have to lead a team? What if my team doesn't like me? What if I don't like the new team when I leave the job? What if I'm not a good leader? What if I'm not a good manager? What if I'm not capable of making the decisions that I will have to make with all the new responsibilities that I will have at that next level? Maybe the salary increase is not worth it. You have all of these things going on beneath the surface because you have not done the inner work to trust and believe that you are enough for that role and that you are qualified and that you are capable and you are deserving of the pay increase that you want. You have not done any of that work, but you just think, oh, I want a salary increase. It makes sense to get a promotion right now, so let me just apply. And then you wonder why you don't have the energy to do the interviews. You wonder why you turn down some of the interviews, or you turn down some of the roles, or you don't show up energized and alive on the interviews. You wonder why you see some positions on LinkedIn and you don't even apply to it because you automatically write yourself off as unqualified. You wonder why you're having a hard time in the job market. You wonder why you can't be motivated enough to go the extra mile and to reach out to people and do follow-ups after the interviews. You wonder why your energy and the way you're showing up is not matching the desire that you have. That's what I mean when I say you have not shifted your identity. You have not become the person that even trusts and believes that you are worthy of that promotion or that amount of income, and you think that you can just apply and everything will be well. No, You have to shift your identity first. You have to do the inner work first to become the person that believes they can have the thing, become the person required to operate at that next level in order for you to get to that next level. Because as long as you keep operating under your current identity with all of these fears and limiting beliefs and these subconscious blocks, every time you start to make progress, every time an interview goes well or something, you will start self-sabotaging. Your nervous system will send signals to trigger one of the stress responses that will cause you to start avoiding, start procrastinating, get really tired, not go on your interviews, not apply for jobs, get distracted, scroll, do all of these things to throw you off, because it is using the limiting beliefs that you have that are flying under the radar, going unchecked, as a way to interpret what you are doing. And it's saying, but hold on, she's applying for jobs right now. But we believe that if she gets a job, then she could get fired because she's probably not qualified, and people will see that she's not smart, and she will be humiliated, and they'll fire her, or they'll realize that she's an imposter. We have to sabotage. We have to sabotage. We have to sabotage. It's not safe. It's not safe. That's essentially what's happening beneath the surface. That's essentially what's happening beneath the surface. That is why you're self-sabotaging. That is why you're procrastinating. Your body's literally seeing it as a threat. Your brain is meant to keep you safe, and it sees familiarity as safe. It sees your current situation, no matter how bad it is, as safe, because that's what you're used to. You can predict that. It can be terrible, but it can predict what's going to happen. So when you try to change it, the uncertainty that comes with the unfamiliarity is perceived as a threat. It uses what you believe about these things, your fears, your limiting beliefs, all of that, your self-concept, how you see yourself. It uses that to interpret what you're doing. And if you have all of these negative views on the things that you want subconsciously, if you have all of these blocks that you don't even know that you have, you are going to self-sabotage. It is literally going to set you up to stay exactly where you are. That is what is going on beneath the surface. And as somebody who has had several transitions in my life, because I've always been committed to becoming the best version of myself, no matter what that looks like. I already told y'all, everything I say I want to do, I will do it. Okay? And I can tell you, at every point when I was trying to do those things in the beginning, it was a struggle. It was a struggle because especially when I came into abundant seasons of my life, because I was so used to being in survival mode, I couldn't trust it. I couldn't hold it for too long. Something would always come up to strip that away from me because I could not trust it, right? So instead of beating yourself up because you struggle to stay consistent and you're always starting over and you're always self-sabotaging, I need you to understand what is going on beneath the surface so you don't pour more salt on your wounds because you don't actually understand what's happening, right? It's not that you're lazy and undisciplined and you just cannot seem to get things right. There's a lot happening beneath the surface that requires an identity shift for you to fix in order to get the things that you want. Otherwise, your body will see it as a threat and it will cause you to self-sabotage every single time. And that is why, that is exactly what we do inside of Upgrade Your Standard. That's exactly why that is what I walk you through how to do, how to shift your identity, how to find all of these blocks and remove them so you can become the best version of yourself. Okay? I figure since I would be dragging you in this episode and encouraging you to get your life together, I could at least tell you why sometimes it's hard and why you self-sabotage. Okay? And now that you have that level of understanding, let me get back to snatching your edges. So the fourth thing is, if you are already living in your backup plan, you owe it to yourself to at least try to go after the things that you want in life. Let me explain what I mean by that. It's the end of the year, New Year coming up, you probably have all of these big goals, these big dreams. You're probably considering making a jump in your life, in your career, whether it's starting a business, coming into entrepreneurship, aiming for a promotion, pivoting in your career, pursuing a passion project, going back to school, starting a new hobby, whatever it is, right? When we talk about becoming the best version of yourself, your next level, you're probably considering like a big jump or a very bold move right now. Like me starting a podcast and starting to post online when I was barely online before. Maybe that's something you might want to do too. We all know how brave and how bold that is, right? It requires courage to put yourself out there and to make these shifts, make these big jumps, these bold moves, right? And you probably have a few that you're considering. But here's the thing. If you are already living in your backup plan, if your life already reflects your backup plan, meaning if you tell yourself, I am going to move to this different city, I want to move to this new city and start this new job, or I want to start a business, I want to start posting online, whatever it is. And if it doesn't work out, then I'll just move back to my current city. If it doesn't work out, if the business doesn't work out, then I'll just go back to a job. If posting the content doesn't work out, I'll just delete the pages and I'll just stop. I just won't post. Do you realize that your backup plan is already your reality? You're already living in the scenario that you would come to if you failed. So don't you think you should at least try? You're already living in a situation that you consider failure. Get up, okay? Get up. That is the decision. I kid you not. That is the conversation that I had with myself. That is the conversation that I had with myself. Years ago, I told myself when I was deciding on the podcast, when I was like doing my pros and cons and trying to map things out, trying to make myself feel comfortable with the decision, I said, you know what, if this doesn't work out, then I'm going to get another job. I'm going to come back to a job. If posting the content online, if the podcast doesn't work out, I'm just going to delete it. If the content doesn't work out, I'm just going to delete the pages. Then I realized, like all of a sudden it hit me like an epiphany, and I was like, so basically what you're doing right now. And then I was like, ooh, God, why you had to do that? Why you had to do that? Because that's how God checks me sometimes. That's how how his sense of humor is set up with me. I was like, God, you didn't have to do that. But it made sense. And I was upset that it made sense, but it made sense. Because if you tell yourself you want to create content and you're afraid of posting the content, do you realize that if you don't like it, if it doesn't work out, if you change your mind, then you just delete the pages and you stop posting? But you're already not posting now. So in other words, the only option you really have is to try, because you're already living in the failed state. When I realized that, I was like, you know what? I have to try. I have to try. If my backup plan, my worst case scenario is currently my reality, what am I so afraid of? Like there was a point in time where I looked at my life and I said, if the things I really want do not work out, I will come back to this. Why was I so comfortable being in a place, staying in a place, settling in a place that I regarded as my personal failure? Why would I stay there knowing that that's what I would come back to if the things I wanted didn't work out? You see what I mean? Just a new perspective to give you. Just a fresh perspective. If you live in a city and you hate the city, it's not working out for you. You don't like it, but you have a job offer in another one, or you want to like step out on faith. You believe God is calling you to go to a new city, and the city you're in, you already outgrew it. You know nothing can come from it. You know you already capped where you are. Like nothing can come from it. You're already capped. There's no growth for you here. There's no opportunities here. The opportunities are in the other city, right? Even if it's nothing concrete, nothing lined up, nothing certain, you know for a fact, you know for certain that where you are, there are no opportunities. The only option you have is to step out on faith. If you tell yourself that if the new city doesn't work out, you'll come back here, why would you stay here? Why would you dream big and then say, you know what, if it fails, then I'll come back to where I am? You consider where you are as a failure. You consider where you are as a failed state. You consider where you are as a last resort. And you are choosing to stay there? I need you to get up. That's not going to work. Once I had that reality, once God gave me that revelation, I said, oh, it was kind of hard to respect myself afterwards. I'm not going to lie to you, because when I looked at it like that, I was like, I couldn't unsee it. I couldn't unhear it. I could no longer justify staying in my comfort zone when I regarded it as a last resort. I was like, oh no, I can't. I can't. I couldn't unhear what I heard. I couldn't unhear it. And the thing is, it's not going to be easy. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not going to be easy. It is whatever you want to do. It is not going to be easy because, like I said, like we discussed in point 2, I think whatever you want, it is going to require more from you. You think it didn't require more from me to show up every week for the most part online for almost 5 years now? When I kept my first episode up, that is literally of me talking about how I don't want to post content, how I don't want to come online, how I'm terrified of being seen, could barely speak, barely forming sentences properly. I was so shy, so afraid, right? You think it didn't require a lot from me to still be doing this after more than 4 years, almost 5 years? You think it didn't require a lot from me? I started podcasting when I was 24 years old, I think. Frontal lobe wasn't even formed yet, right? I have grown a lot in the last 4 years. I have changed a lot. It has forced me to grow up. It has forced me to face my fears. It has forced me to hold myself even more accountable than I already did before in my personal life, because now I'm not just responsible for myself, I'm responsible for the people who listen to me, right? I hold myself to a certain standard because I understand that there are some people who see me as an inspiration, right? Even though I really don't even I just come on here and yap. But sometimes the DMs I get, I'm just like, I never thought that I would inspire people in that way, like simply by just talking about my life, right? But I take that very seriously. It has forced me to grow up. It has forced me to be so much more serious about personal growth and development and accountability and truly being the best version of myself, not just for me, but because I am responsible for the platform that I created and how I present myself. It's always easier to take your L's in private and to make mistakes in private and to say things in private that, probably never see the light of day. And then you can, work on it behind the scenes and not really deal with criticism and not really deal with feeling like, oh no, I said something last month that I disagree with this month. I don't want to look like a fraud or like I'm unsure of myself or even just getting to a point where I have to give myself permission to change and permission to grow and permission to set boundaries to protect myself and give myself permission to be vulnerable, set boundaries for my vulnerability, because contrary to popular belief, I'm still very much a private person. I know y'all have noticed that there are certain things that I don't talk about online. That's very intentional, right? It has required a lot from me in the last almost 5 years to show up online and do this. It has required a lot of personal growth, a lot of inner work. I am not the same person I was when I started, and not just because I aged, right? Not just because my frontal lobe started forming, not just because I was younger than 25 when I started. It has forced me to do a lot of work on myself, right? There is a price to pay. More is required of you. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it is going to be easy, but what I can tell you is that it is 100% worth it. It is 100% worth it. I would not change anything at all. Even some of the things that I made that I used to beat myself up over and think that it was a terrible mistake and I should have, done things differently. Because of the way I saw things play out in the end, I understand that things had to go the way they had to go for me to gain the lessons and the wisdom that I did in the process of all of these decisions that I didn't think were the best. But that's my business. But it's 100% worth it. It's been 100% worth it to me. It's not easy, but it is worth it. It is worth it to be one of the few people in this world that will be able to say that I did not stay in my comfort zone. I did not allow myself to settle. I drop kicked myself out of my comfort zone and I did everything I said I was going to do. Not many people can say that. I am very proud of myself that I am able to say that. That gives you a different level of confidence that a lot of people will never unlock because they are very comfortable in their comfort zone. They are very comfortable settling because they are not willing to pay the price. So it will not be easy, but it will be 100% worth it. And my hope for you is that you become one of those people that can look back on your life and not have any regrets or resentment towards yourself because you did not stay in your comfort zone. You committed to becoming the best version of yourself, whatever that took. And the vision that you saw in your head for yourself became your reality. Now, the fifth and final thing that I would say that, again, another hope that I have for you is that please, 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 do not go into 2026 being a shell of yourself. Please prioritize being yourself authentically, getting to a place where you can be your authentic self and believe that you are enough. I have a whole episode on that I posted, I think, 2 weeks ago. I will leave it in the description. But please, please, please prioritize being comfortable with yourself and showing up authentically, because there is a flow that you get into. There is a flow state that you reach when you are yourself. And it's something that I cannot really explain. It's just something that if you know, you know, in whatever it is that you do in your life, in your relationships, in content, if you create any, in your work. I know there are different rules for corporate America, use your discretion, but please prioritize getting to a point where you can be the most authentic version of yourself. And please watch that episode on authenticity because I give you a whole guide on how to do a life audit so you can become more authentic. But please prioritize this going into 2026. You do not need to create some alter ego and become anything that's different other than the person that God created you to be. God did not take his time to create you, to form you before he knew you in your mother's womb, to put all of these unique attributes for your personality or your physical appearance and all of the different parts of you. He did not create you so unique just so you can water it down and become something you are not. Just so you can blend into all of the noise in society based on what is conventionally or socially acceptable by the masses, whether it's toning down your personality, toning down your gifts and your talents, toning down your passion, your interests, etc., adapting based on the rooms you are in. God didn't die for you so you can be somebody else. Okay, let's be real. God didn't die for you so you can be somebody else. Okay, the person you're trying to be, he already died for them. They don't need a doppelganger. They don't need another one of them. They don't need a substitute. You need to be you. Okay, you need to stop constantly watering yourself down depending on the room that you are in, depending on the environment that you are in, and trying to fit into what's working and what's approved by the masses and even friends and family. You owe it to yourself to be who you are, because the things that you want in life is connected to who you are authentically, not your representative, not the person that you send in place based on who you think you need to be in order to be accepted. I used to do that, especially with content. Like, I really struggled to find my voice. Like, if you don't make content, you'll never understand. But if you do, you will understand that sometimes it's not always easy. Like I can be me in real life and stuff, but sometimes it's not always easy to translate that on camera. Like, suddenly when a camera is rolling, sometimes I don't know how to explain it. If you know, you know. Sometimes it's not always easy to do that, but I am so grateful that God really made it a priority in this season of my life in the last 2 years to get me to a place where he truly made me believe that, number one, I need to be authentically myself, and number two, that is enough. There are many times I tried to water down myself to the point where I thought I had to be nicer and not so blunt, but I do like dragging y'all edges. That is who I am in real life. Like, I'm the blunt friend. That is who I am in real life. So when I come on here and I drag you, it's not me playing a character. That's how I am. That's how I talk in real life. I can be nice, I can be calm on all of these things, but I'm also very matter of fact. You see what I mean? Like, let's not beat around the bush. I hate beating around the bush. That's why I don't come on here and beat around the bush with you. Do you need to get your life together? Yes, that's exactly what I'm going to tell you. You see what I mean? If you need to get your life together, I'm the person that you come to, because I will hold you accountable, because I want the best for you. It's very hard for me to look at people dilly-dallying and wasting time and not living up to their full potential and just let them, or encourage them to waste time or to co-sign their foolishness. That's not me. I genuinely love people too much to do that to them. It's not always seen as love, and I will admit sometimes my delivery needs work, but I'm going to say what needs to be said. Okay? If you need to get it together, I'm going to tell you get it together. Okay? That's just who I am. But yeah, even that, sometimes I thought I had to tone it down, but like I know how to navigate it now, and it's not something that I will be toning down. So I will be on your edges for the foreseeable future. Like I said, I love you too much to watch you settle. I love you too much to allow you to make a decision that I know is going to ruin your life. It's not always seen as love, but it honestly pains me. It genuinely pains me. Like, as somebody who has lived a life where I settled, as somebody who has lived a life where I pacified myself and I was a victim, I had a victim mentality and all of these things, to radically shifting that into taking accountability and becoming the person who is confident now and who will do everything that I say I will do. End of story. I know that that is the best thing that I've ever done for myself. And when I encourage people, when I come on here and I drag you respectfully, it's because I want the best for you. It's because I know what it's like to settle, and I genuinely do not want you to settle, because you deserve better than that. And I tell you all of my business, not all, some strategically, only relevant details, to help y'all get an understanding of some of the lessons that I've learned so that you don't make the same mistakes. I do this because I genuinely want the best for y'all. Really, otherwise I would not bother, because you gain nothing by playing it safe. You feed your flesh now, you feed your insecurities and your fears now, but you trade that in for a life of resentment. You choose the comfort now at the expense of misery later on. And I'm simply trying to help you avoid making that decision. You see what I mean? So these are the 5 things that I wanted to tell you before we go into 2026. As a reminder, number 1, you need to stop settling. Okay, you need to get your life together and stop settling. Just because your 30% looks like other people's 100%, that's none of my business. That's none of your business. You do what you need to do to get to your 100%. End of story. The second thing, the question that I had to ask you is, what makes you think that the things that you want is not going to require more from you? It is going to require more from you. It's the price that you have to pay. It is mandatory. Decide to pay the price, and then keep it pushing. Okay? Settling is not an option. The third thing, you're not procrastinating because you're lazy or you're a failure. Stop beating yourself up. Stop acting like you don't have confidence, or you're just a failure and you'll never be disciplined. You have not done the work to shift your identity, remove all of the subconscious blocks, the limiting beliefs, the fears, all of these things that are causing you to self-sabotage. Every time you try to change your life, every time you try to work on these goals, you struggle to stay consistent, you always end up self-sabotaging, and then you constantly repeat the process and start over and over and over and make no progress because you have not done the work to shift your identity. And until you do that, you will stay stuck in that loop. You will stay stuck in that cycle. And like I also said, that is exactly what I help you to do. That's exactly what I help you break out of, so you can shift your identity and become the best version of yourself, whatever that means for you. And I only have a few more spots left for coaching before the end of the year. So if you're interested, the link will be in the description. The fourth thing was, if you are already living in your backup plan, just get your life together and do what you need to do. Okay? If you looked at where you were and you said, you know what, there's this thing I really want to do, and if it doesn't work out, I'll just come back to this point. If you're already living in what you describe as failure, get up. Okay? Get up and do the things that you want to do. Because what do you have to lose? What happens if it doesn't work out? Exactly what you're doing right now. You see what I mean? Get up, right? And the fifth and final thing, Stop being a shell of yourself and do not go into the new year. Decide today that you will not allow yourself to be a shell of yourself, that you will prioritize doing what you need to do to feel comfortable being your authentic self in all settings, in all rooms, and believe that that is enough, that you don't have to be anybody else to be accepted, to be loved, to get the things that you want in life. Final reminders, all the links for my Substack, for the authenticity episode, and for my coaching program / mentorship will be in the description. That is all I have to say today, and I will talk to you next Sunday.